Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, after the humiliating setbacks of Operation Sindoor, India under Modi is rushing into the aggressive militarization. Naval buildup in the Indian Ocean, massive arms acquisitions, drone propaganda along the line of control, and Hindutva-driven reforms embedding ideology into the forces. Yet repeated Indian failures, from Rafale losses to faulty satellites and faltering Make in India claims, expose the hollowness of the war hysteria. Now, the big question arises whether New Delhi's military adventurism, a politically driven agenda to mask domestic failures, escalate tensions and pursue the regional hegemony at the cost of South Asian peace. Let's explore the answers of this important question and several others. We have in our studios Brigadier Retired Dr. Raashid Wali Janjua. He is the Director of Research at Islamabad Policy Research Institute, IPRI. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence here. And with him, Sqn Ldr retired Ali Hamza. He is the air power expert. Thank you very much, Ali Hamza, sir, for your presence. And soon, Vice Admiral Ahmed Saeed, retired, President, National Institute of Maritime Affairs, will join us also. So, my first question to you, Brigadier Sahab, is the Modi regime's creation of new Bhairav Commandos Battalion and its drone-centric propaganda that is going on along the line of control in the garb of security challenges, a false flag strategy to mask domestic failures? That there are several reports which are indicating that. Setbacks in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir then provoke anti-India, anti-Pakistan hysteria, prepare the ground for another dangerous confrontation that actually threatens the regional peace and fulfill the domestic political agenda. How do you describe how you feel that what right now India is actually pursuing?
Thank you very much. You see, India has not stomached the humiliating defeat that it suffered in May, and it had an image of a very strong regional power with global pretensions that was blown to the smithereens by the very effective response that was given by Pakistan Air Force, Army on ground, naval preparedness. So, they haven't been able to really countenance that kind of a setback, and they are looking for some excuse to again sort of make up for what they lost. This new raising and new organizational structures, those are not something which are directly linked to Operation Sindoor. It is a continuum. We all know that India had aggressive designs against Pakistan, and especially its cold start doctrine, which later on morphed into proactive doctrine, proactive operations. Pakistan responded through new warfighting concept. Essentially, India was desiring to create an instrument of conventional means which could go for those territorial and force destruction objectives to humiliate Pakistan, remaining well within the nuclear threshold of Pakistan, knowing fully well that any conventional conflict in future would be under a nuclear overhang. There is a very thin sliver of space for conventional war, which India knows and Pakistan knows. As a smaller protagonist in the conflict equation, it is in the interest of Pakistan to squeeze that space as much as possible through our nuclear deterrence. And it is in the Indian interest to expand that space and within that space seek those elusive objectives to humiliate Pakistan by way of shallow territorial gains through those integrated battle groups that they created by restructuring their defensive formations, reconfiguring their erstwhile strike corps into small, easily deployable, rapidly employable thrust forces, which were called IBGs. Now, I think they are morphing towards even smaller, because with each conventional iteration of the conflict, they come to know that Pakistan's response is so robust that the space is already squeezed. This time we squeezed the space through our robust air response, aerial response, through our SSMs, which were Fatah radar guided missiles, very effectively responded and caused damage not only to Indian installation but S-400. So, they have understood that now they need something on a smaller scale. Perhaps their thrust lines and their thrust intent to ingress into Pakistani territory, now it is getting shallower. And they are coming up with the organizational structures like Rudra, which is essentially nothing but erstwhile integrated battle group, which is a brigade combat team, essentially a combined arms brigade team comprising mechanized infantry, armor, drone platoons, and their artillery regiment, which it would be equipped with special loitering munitions. So, it would be a combined mix of much flexible, tailored to the terrain perhaps. They are coming up with first test bed, one in mountainous region, one in the plains, and Rudra brigade essentially would be a curtailed version of a IBG, rapidly deployable, equipped with the EW means, capable of cyber security, having loitering munitions, employable drones, mechanized infantry, and armor, which would be integrated with the air defense for shallow territorial gains to make some ingress and cause force destruction, or to go for some territorial gain that they can hold on and embarrass Pakistan. For that very purpose, they are also creating the Bairav light commando battalions, and essentially that is nothing but an upgraded form of an infantry battalion with more which bridges the gap between their para-security forces and their standard infantry battalion. So, this would be infantry battalion essentially, which would be equipped with special equipment and specially trained troops. Pakistan already, by the way, has those in the shape of light commando battalions.
Definitely, definitely. Your point well taken,
way
sir.
back in 2008-9. I know because I was involved in raising one of those. So, Pakistan has a head start over them, and they probably realize that their infantry component is not, it doesn't have the sufficient punch. Intent might be to activate those on the line of control, pull back their regular troops or the paramilitary forces, go for raids and ingresses, and to go for those operations which are aggressive in intent.
Okay. Your point well taken, sir. Your point well taken. Sqn Ldr, how did India's intelligence failures during so-called Operation Sindoor, including misguiding that was the beyond visual range air-to-air missiles, lacking integrated war strategy, underestimating Pakistan's full spectrum warfare and tech advantages, obviously contribute to the unprecedented destruction on Indian side, including the Rafale. And what does this reveal about the Modi regime's defense planning, military preparedness, and the credibility of its multi-billion-dollar arms acquisitions actually?
Thank you very much for having me. So, first of all, Allah Almighty has been very kind, but the two main factors in Pakistan's win against Indian Air Force were, first of all, this intelligence failure you were talking about, and I'll quote their own Air Chief Marshal Bhaduria, retired Bhaduria. He was ex-chief of Indian Air Force. He was saying to a journalist in India that we had some news that they will only fire till 145 kilometers because their BVR, Beyond Visual Range Missile, PL-15E. E means export.
Yes.
So the actual PL-15E, PL-15 can fire till 200 kilometers, but we knew that PL-15E can only fire till 145. So we were expecting that they cannot hit us beyond 150 kilometers. But they cheated somehow, because it's not my responsibility to give my enemy my own confidential information. It was their intelligence failure.
Yes.
So we hit them beyond 150 kilometers up to 200 kilometers. So first of all, again, big intelligence failure. Secondly, multi-domain operations, or full spectrum, like you said it, that is a huge thing. It's a new concept of warfare, because previously it was only platform centric. If you have a platform like Rafale, it's an excellent aircraft, state-of-the-art technology, but now only one platform.
Against an adversary who is missing lots of concepts, really.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So if you are not integrating it, this Rafale aircraft, in your whole ecosystem, then its potency cannot be used to its.
Although they got that brilliant aircraft, that is 4.5th generation aircraft, and that's the brilliant aircraft. That is also the war proven in different regions of the world. But unfortunately, that French aircraft was with Indians, and they have that aircraft 5 years prior to them, and we got our aircraft just 3 years back. So we have integrated, we have how we have employed, how actually our leadership thought about that. But it was really very pathetic on the part of Indian Air Force. Please carry on.
So the problem is with the doctrine. The Indians are still in this platform and chest thumping, and we have S-400 and Rafale. But the Pakistani leadership, alhamdulillah, we are looking towards the future. In the future, if you do not integrate all these domains, sea, land, air, space, cyber, then you cannot fight this with this new concept of warfare. And lastly, like you said, the problem with the Modi regime and all that, the saffronization of Indian Army, and now I think the saffronization of Indian Air Force, because their Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh, 4 or 5 months back, he was bashing HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, that they are not giving me this Tejas and capability. But previously, I think 2 to 3 weeks before, he was praising them. So I think there was some pressure on the top leadership of Indian Air Force from the government side, and this is for any professional military.
Under that pressure, actually he claimed about 6-0 about Pakistan. What was the replica of ours, what we have claimed really? But we have shown that whole imageries and the satellite proofs we have. Your point well taken. Admiral Syed joins. He is the President of National Institute of Maritime Affairs. Admiral Syed has a distinguished career overall, and just recently he visited China, and just last night he returned. And thank you very much, Admiral Syed, for being with us here in the studios.
Always pleasure.
You were a bit late, so we have to start it from the first one. That was the first question to you. In the light of devastating setbacks during the Operation Sindoor, then growing rifts within the India's military, what Ali was rightly pointing out about the Hindutva, saffronization of the Indian military. The Indian military leadership, there are lots of rifts there on Modi governments, and one is actually the theaterization. These plans are suddenly imposed by the Modi regime on its military. Does India's recent air, ground and the naval forces expansion, including the surface and the subsurface fleet, advanced short and long range missiles, and the drone sets, overall exercises as well, the large scale air and the naval exercises which were on, and then what it reflect actually politically driven agenda that aim to mask Modi's domestic failures, or it's purely for the regional dominance?
Thank you very much. If you allow me, we will a little digress into bigger picture and then zoom in to contextualize this response.
It's up to you.
Yes, sir. So that is that if you see the progress or the hierarchy of or the overall India's placing itself in the center of Indian Ocean by saying that they are the net security provider. And that is something which they started off when the Americans, they came to know that China's rise is coming very fast. And the book came A Decade Lost, in which they had started targeting that now we should look towards India being a competitor. So if that be the case, the 80% of trade is plying on the sea. So from where they should start. So that is the area from where their collusion of interest started off. So I think that is from where the rebalancing Asia came into play, then it came to Asia Pacific strategy, and then subsequently Indo-Pacific, and within Indo-Pacific self-proclaimed oversized, I would say, strategic proclamation that they will be the net security provider. So within that construct, then they started allocating the budgets, they started the developmental strategy. So in that, now if we see the last budget which they have raised 10%, it's around 89 billion. Of which, if you see the recurring budgets parameters, it's around 35 billion has been allocated for the modernization, and they are heavily going into the self reliance. But now coming to your question, political ambitions, capability, and the budget allocation, there is a serious deficit within this. So if we see the Ops Sindoor, that is a classical example where the political jargons fell apart as far as their tactical capability was concerned. So that is a gap in which now they are struggling around, and they have come up with the theaterization issue as well. So you rightly pointed out that this this rhetoric has three dimensions. One is the local. Of course, the lost territory politically, they have to remake it. So they are trying to pacify the internal public. At the same time, at regional level, they are trying to signaling that they are still there, and they are going to re-improve on their capability. And third is again signaling to the international community, which I think is, if we see in the post-ops, Banyanul Ops Banyanul Marsus, the gains which Pakistan has gained, none of the international leaders or country had supported their claims. So that gives, they have dented seriously this particular net security provider personality.
So, Admiral sir, but as the Modi government actually accelerates naval build-up and the aggressive exercises in the Indian Ocean under its Western Naval Command, is India nefariously converting the world's key trade artery into a conflict zone, pursuing regional hegemon, while undermining peace, stability, and the prospects of the shared economic growth in South Asia?
The last word which you said is the key, the shared, rallying a shared prosperity. But if that is the case, then you have to be collaborative in your approach. You have to cooperate with the regional forces. But if you are going all alone and doing these kind of things, so definitely it is a disruption of international sea trade. So that is where I think their leadership is faltering in my view. And the international trade is feeling the pressure of that. If this area gets weaponized, its conflict starts increasing. So 80% of sea trade between East and West is going through this region. So it is equally, it will hurt the Europe and United States of America as well as the Eastern countries, because East is your manufacturing engine, and West and North is your consumer market. So in between, if we create a kind of situation where there is conflict prone areas, so this lifeline will be hurt. So I think they need to reconsider these kind of things.
Your point well taken. Brigadier Raashid Wali sahab, whether Modi regime's aggressive posturing for drone warfare through drone Parhar 2 exercise that was recently held in south of India. Integration at the battalion level, then specialized units and anti-drone capabilities is a Hindutva-driven war hysteria aimed at masking the failures overall, fueling the proxy terrorist operations against Pakistan, because we have lots of credible reports coming that even the terrorists now based in Afghanistan at the Afghan soil, they are now using anti-drone jamming systems and spoofing systems. It means that India is fueling these technologies to terrorists as well, and this is going to be very dangerous for the regional stability. Dangerously actually stabilizing not only South Asia, but now started it at the line of control as well, and it is signaling any sort of future eventuality.
You see, I will not put it that way, because technology is ideology neutral. What is happening in India is another matter. That's an ideologically driven agenda of a RSS propped BJP government, which for its domestic purposes stokes up the fires of communalism to gain the electoral dividends, and keeping a situation fraught with Pakistan on the border also plays into that ideology, and they gain the electoral dividends. So we should not expect under Modi's watch any improvement of relations with Pakistan. Regarding its aggressive posture and its manifestation in terms of new organizational structures, new doctrines and technologies, this is a continual dialectical between doctrines, technologies. Technologies are evolving the world over.
Yes.
The world is going the way of drone warfare. There's already new doctrines are emerging of swarm warfare, drones in reconnaissance mode, in armed attack mode, and even AI enabled drone swarms would be the way to go in future.
Definitely.
On ground, UJVs, unmanned ground vehicles. Now the future tanks, you might witness something with active attack system mounted on the armor formations, and the tanks actually being driven without driver. So unmanned ground vehicle systems, unmanned aerial weapon platforms. Pakistan is also using. Pakistan is alive to those things. We are confronted with our security situation on terrorism front vis-a-vis TTP and BLA. Already Pakistan army is using very effectively the drones for reconnaissance purposes, for armed attack also against TTP, and that's the way to go. Foretaste of things to come was given in this operation Sindoor by India, and I think that was very provocative. They sent their loitering munitions in reconnaissance mode. Swarm of drones, a series of swarms came where our bulk of the mechanized formations were in Bahawalpur. Those were not in armed mode, but the loitering munitions they fired. Some damage was caused in Lahore. These loitering munitions were made ingress. Harpy, they are the Israeli version.
Yes.
And Indians are using that very effectively. We should not underestimate our enemy. Let's accept it that this time around their cruise missiles BrahMos, it sneaked all the way to our Noor Khan base. So we should do a better job of our terminal air defenses. We should look very carefully at what they are doing by way of their drone warfare. They are raising these Bhairvav light commando battalions, and they're equipping them with specifically those drone platoons which would be handled by infantry, and the loitering munitions with what they call Div Yastra with their artillery regiments. So that is the way of the future, where cyber warfare, drones, unmanned aerial weapon platforms, unmanned ground weapon platforms, missiles, surface to surface,
definitely,
air defense, and what we call sometimes we confuse multi-domain operation.
Yes,
it is
yes.
The classical definition of multi-domain is that sea, air, ground, outer space, cyber, this all should coalesce into a multi-domain.
Definitely, all combined.
But now at every service specific level, several domains operate. Like if the land forces have to operate, a mechanized maneuver has to go in Bahawalpur or Rajasthan. Your mechanized formations need to be supported by your space enabled assets.
No doubt.
Your central
What we
common
call
operating
the
picture,
network centric
EW,
warfare.
EW, unmanned aerial platforms, your ability to counter the enemy drones, which would make the mincemeat of armor.
Each and every
unless there is an
system must
antidote.
have to be integrated with the,
This is the
with
age
single
of
data link and all that.
system of systems and network-centric warfare.
No doubt about that. Sqn Ldr Ali, does the repeated, as Brigadier Sahab rightly pointed out about the network-centric warfare and the multi-domain operations, does the repeated failure of the India's NAVIC, that is the satellite navigation system, where most satellites have become non-functional due to the faulty rubidium clocks, reliance on imported parts and the poor planning, expose actually the hollowness of the Modi regime's make in India claims and shattered the self-centric Indian claims of becoming a major space power. So how do you see that this aspect is from the last 2 decades, India is striving hard to have this SATCOM must have to be the part of their overall, what they call that they are working hard on integrated warfare. So how do you see that, these satellite failures, their even spatial satellite system and all that?
Very briefly, firstly, I'll tell you why this system, NAVIC, Navigation of Indian Constellation, is nearly defunct. And it is, there is a big question mark on its operational integrity, because out of the 11 satellites, right now only 4 are functional. So IRNS 1A, C, D, E and G, they are not functioning. 5 of those out of those 7 had some issues with this atomic clock and their navigation system failed. One, NVS 02, it had some propulsion system failure, it could not go to the intended orbit, and one of the previous ones, IRNS 1H, it failed to launch. So only 4 are right now there, and one of them, 1B, it is at the end of its life. So first of all, again saying that what Indians claim, the
means that constellation is right now not there.
Not absolutely. Okay. You need a minimum number of satellites. Indians do not. They claim they have launched 11 satellites, but only 4 are functional and barely. So again, the problem becomes some Indian analysts call it the Babu culture with the bureaucrats and the political and all that thing, because the politicians and the bureaucrats there, they have a huge say in all these matters. So if you will not allow any department, whether military or civil, to work on these things, you have your own, again quoting their own opposition leader since 2019, he's saying that Prime Minister gave 30,000 crore to Anil Ambani in Rafale deal, and so I'm not well versed in those political matters, but the result, whatever, whether it is the Indian Air Force, whether it is their space, ISRO, the result is not good, frankly. I'm talking on facts. Like sir said very rightly that you should not underestimate your enemy.
Definitely.
But alhamdulillah, like the things which are going with them and going with us, so we are in a very good position. And this especially, just talking about this NAVIC, the constellation is a complete failure, because again, they are going to launch 3 NVS 3, 4, 5 in 2026. But by the time, if there is a big if they go in orbit, 1B and some other of the previous generation, they will be shelved. So maximum, best case scenario, they'll get only 4 satellites at a time, which is not enough for the constellation.
Yeah, definitely, because you need that one by one, one after another.
Yeah.
So that is very important. So Vice Admiral Ahmed Saeed Sahab, in the light of Indian Naval Chief Admiral Dinesh Tripathi's provocative statement that Operation Sindoor has not ended, and the Navy may do the opening if required. Is this not actually the clear evidence of India's politically driven war hysteria and aggressive design to undermine the regional stability and dangerously escalating tensions in South Asia?
I think first of all, the kind of stature the services chiefs they carry, I think it's not in consonance or with the personality of that stature. They shouldn't be politicizing and carrying political messaging in it. And this is a very classical example of what we have been talking about, saffronization of the forces. And this is the offshoot of the same. I think repetition of their defense minister's statement, which he had just given after the attacks, that next time, and that Navy would like to take the lead in this area. So this is actually a continuation of the rhetorics which has been politically publicized. So of course, these kind of high level statements, they carry messaging as well, and they carry the risk as well. The risk is that in any future conflicting situation, the things can rise quickly. So, this is not a responsible behavior of a country where they are inciting and fueling these kind of environments. So, in maritime domain, it is a domain in which all the countries, they have a right to live peacefully, because more than 60% of your area is not linked to any country, that is the high seas. Plus, in your own area, you have been mandated by the UN that you have to ensure innocent passage for the neutrals as well as for the other countries. So, clubbing together the responsible state behavior, it is not in consonance with that, I would say, and it is purely, I would say, political, but it has ramification in terms of future raising any temperature or that kind of situation that can get volatile.
Your point well taken, sir. Brigadier Raashid Wali sahab, soon after the brilliant success of the Marka-e-Haq, Pakistan announced its Army Rocket Force Command. India unveiled Sudarshan Chakra mission. Is this a reactionary move by the Modi regime to cover military setbacks, advance RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, Hindutva, terrorist agenda, and provoking dangerous arms race despite poverty and lots of internal challenges within India?
I think Indians are on with their implacable wave of military modernization and spending in sync with their pretensions of being a global power, not only a regional power. So, that is why they are spending way above their probably
self-claimed
what
global
their economic
power.
muscle permits. So, their development of these concepts, I mentioned few on the land like Rudra and Bhairav and the Sudarshan Chakra. We must understand what they have already on the strategic missile front. Their SSM capability is well integrated with their conventional forces. Pakistan, in keeping with a responsible image of a nuclear country, has kept both things separate. And we have a Army Strategic Force Command, which deals with the SSMs, short range NASAs also in the tactical in the combat zone. But those are dual use for strategic as well as they can carry the conventional payloads. But those are under Strategic Force Command, under Nuclear Command Authority and all. Indians, on the contrary, they had their BrahMos with their field formations, operational
and even they have dangerously mixed it up things. What we are talking about Agni 5 bunker busters, this is going to be very dangerous escalation if you have some sort of a conventional tip at the nuclear arsenal, and it is presumably thought that might be a nuclear warhead is coming to Pakistan, so or to our country.
You see, this cruise adds a dangerous dimension, a cruise missile, BrahMos, because one that it gives very little warning. It can be misconstrued in Indo-Pak, where both are at a hair trigger alert, and both can misconstrue, and any escalatory spiral can take place on what we call those classic Herman Khan's 44 rungs. Pakistan, by creating rocket forces, has created another rung of a conventional missile force. Pakistan already had these.
That has given actually the conventional leverage to Pakistan.
We had this capability, but we have now created command headquarters for better articulation of command, because in a conventional operational contingencies, the field artillery, rocket guided artillery, conventional payload missiles. So, those would be two. The commanders at the tactical level would be too engrossed in their battles to carry out proper coordination with the army headquarters. So, that is why a headquarter which is called Rocket Forces Command has been created, and in times to come, to curtail this Indian space that they are trying to carve out, another task has been given for rocket forces to respond as quickly and reduce that rung by rung escalation, and in a way it it aims at strengthening your deterrence, signaling that look, there is no scope for conventional warfare, lobbing of cruise missiles, which is very dangerous proposition. And this time around, once their Air Force came, now certain leaks have informed us very clearly that Rafales were armed with scalpel missiles in air to ground role, ground attack role, and their intent was not only these so-called terrorist camps. There was no terrorist camp. They attacked the civilian areas. 6 of those on the 6th.
Definitely, they had.
But they had over 40 aircrafts, all armed with the ground attack, and some of them we now know through leaks did not have Meteor. What that means, they were not coming for air-to-air fight; they were coming for ground attack, and that was their besetting sin. Actually, they came into their own trap.
Definitely.
But this is a very dangerous, gambit. If they if they think that missile warfare is the way to go in future, if they can think they can send armed drones, loitering munitions. So this is playing a very dangerous, what I call the dangerous tango amongst the two nuclear countries, where any wrong miscalculation, any blip on a radar, it can give a wrong signal. Any missile can stray into a strategic asset, and which if happens, then the response and the results are unimaginable, incalculable harm.
No doubt.
So therein we need to emphasize upon India the need to be more staid and sober, and therein this role of these rocket forces, so that they know we have a conventional instrument which can stop them in their tracks before they up the ante.
Definitely, your point well taken, but we don't think that India is going to be sober, because at least in the Modi's regime, so that is loud and clear, but your point is very important now. Squadron Leader Ali, after the historic humiliation in Rafale jets in Operation Sindoor, where PF's J-10Cs proved superior, is Modi regime's 62,000 crore rupees deal for 97 Tejas Mark 1A fighters under the MRFA plan address the squadron shortfalls, which is now at 29 squadrons at least, or it is merely a politically driven showpiece of Atmanirbhar Bharat or indigenization, the ways billions of poor Indians wealth, along with that that fuels the war hysteria, then mass military weaknesses, and even the corruption, because we know that the famous Rafale scandal that happened. So how do you see this type of gambit, which actually what we call the gamble, actually the Indian Modi regime is actually playing?
So the Tejas LCA program was started in 1983 to replace the MiG-21s.
Yes.
It was before my birth, and I then joined PEF.
And you retired.
And I retired, and it's still not in the squadrons. So only one
40
squadron.
LCA Tejas in 40 years at least.
Absolutely. So I'll quote Dr. Adil Sultan. He's far more knowledgeable and experienced than me. That is a $12.6 billion mistake, because by the time the last
and those 40 don't have the final certification as well.
Only one squadron.
Yes, only
16,
only.
and one of them has crashed. So only 15 are like combat capable.
Yes.
Others are not combat. They are IOC initial operation
Definitely.
And then now they are engines issues with General Electric from USA. So that's a separate topic.
There are lots of airframe issues, then avionics issues. There are lots of issues.
So like Sir said, Sir Adil Sultan, that it's a $12.6 billion mistake, because by the time these 97 will, whatever time frame to 2034, 35, it will be obsolete. This aircraft will be obsolete in the modern era. But like you said, then why they are going for it? Again, it's a political scam, I'll say, Atmanirbhar, because the Indian Air Force, there are literally, if you just go to the Indian Defense Analyst, Indian Air Force is not happy with LCA Tejas.
It is actually crippled. Yes.
Absolutely. And there are no export orders. A lot of lobbying in Philippines and Malaysia and Indonesia, but unlike our JF-17, which has a lot of orders from Azerbaijan, Iraq.
The countries don't require these fighter jets for joyrides, you know, because these are required for fights.
So these toys, if they cannot fight.
Definitely.
Now, if IAF, if Modi does not put pressure on IAF.
I think so. This is unfortunate, because these are not up to the categories of toys even.
But the point is that even if IEF does not buy this, the sole customer of Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, then what is going to happen to this HAL, like Urdu HAL or English HAL, whatever. So the problem is that the political pressure on the Indian Air Force, whether they like it or not, they have to buy it because they are the only customer of this factory. So their Dhruv is also the helicopter. They gave it to Ecuador. Ecuadorians said, please take it back after 4 crashes. They gave them 6, 4 were crashed. So everything which HAL is producing, Indian Air Force is buying under coercion from the government, and this Atmanirbhar Bharat is just a slogan for a political capital by the government. Again, on facts basis, I can claim the products are not up to the mark, especially in the modern era.
No doubt about that, no doubt about that. That's why we are much satisfied on that account, really. Vice Admiral Saeed sir, with India's much hyped indigenization dream actually faltering, Teja's naval variants rejected. Now, the twin engine fighter project is already delayed till 2038, and Rafale M, the maritime role, imports overshadowing actually the indigenization efforts. Has the Modi government's cronyism and the failed planning basically pushed the Indian Navy's air arms into the complete uncertainty and failure, exposing the hollowness of the Indian self-reliance mantra or claim, whatever they were talking about?
I link up the last question answer where we were talking about their naval chief's statement that in future we will lead. So that means it's an admission on one point also that we don't have the capability. Had they right now, had they had,
currently we don't have the capability.
They could have exercised that. So this is one admission from their naval chief that we don't have that capability, number one. Number two, indigenization and political rhetoric, as I already said, there is a gap between them. So coupled with that is the commercial element in which the huge money is being put into the political side for their propagation of their personal gains. So that is creating pressure on their military industry also. As you already highlighted about the Tejas LCAN, so it was technically actually faltered for the reasons that it didn't have that strength to take the pressure of ski jump. So this is a basic question. If you are designing an aircraft to be used on board, so your aeronautical engineers must know what is the basic capability. So they made it and now they see that it is not compatible. So this is very ironic. Secondly, I would give another example, and that is their Scorpion submarines.
Yes.
In 2015, they planned, while doing the acquisition, then they planned into somewhere that by 2015, they will integrate the indigenous AIP system, Air Independent Propulsion System. But still we see after 10 years, the submarines have got operational with delayed timelines, but still that is not in line. It is nowhere seen even. So that is the capability, technology gap which they have within their planning as well. So that is a clear indicator. The will and wish, wherewithal is far, far away, and it is not compatible with their political wish.
They are speaking too high, but unfortunately beyond the reality, the ground realities, no doubt about that. Sqn Ldr Ali Sahab, after the humiliating sack in Operation Sindoor, the Modi government is moving ahead with 19,000 crore deal of 6 AWACS, that is airborne early warning and control, Airbus A321, while also procuring new radars, anti-drone and air defense systems. Is this about closing the surveillance gap with Pakistan or the part of Modi's larger regional destabilization plan?
So I'll say both, because they have a gap issue in this AWACS. We are a smaller nation, lesser area than India, but we still have around triple the number of AWACS.
Yes.
SAP 2000 than India.
Alhamdulillah.
So, Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Yes.
So they have this issue, but again they are going for their Netra Mark II,
Yes.
which is indigenous, and they already have 3 Netra Mark I, and they are not up to the par. Their main AWACS.
To my information, it's only 2. There were 3
Yeah. So
before Operation
yeah.
Sindoor.
So, but the point
Although
is,
we haven't claimed that.
yeah, not claimed, absolutely. So the actual AVAX which is working for India is the Falcon Israeli AVAX, which is on the A50 Russian, it is IL-76 platform.
Right.
Actually, if they are going for that, more AVAX, then I'll be worried. But 6 Netra, I think again, it comes back to our previous discussion that you give the money to HAL and DRDO, and then maybe they give you some back for the political agenda and etc. everything. And it will not be like that much big threat. But speaking on this, like from my personal
But I think
opinion,
so we don't have to worry about, because
Yeah,
they are always
thing.
talking about two-front war, but it is impossible
So
for them
that's
for
what I
on
was
one
going to
front
say,
as well.
that inshallah, with our current abilities, this Netra, the indigenous AVAX, it is not a big threat. Again, I think these 6 Airbus A321s, they have
For
bought from
certain
Air
reasons,
India.
it's a threat for itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like their SAMs, the Spider SAM and S400, it is a more threat to themselves, because in 2019 they shot their own Mi-17. So when people say this, like their air defense systems, and says, I said we are less worried, and the Indian Air Force pilots are more worried about Indian air defense systems, because till now they have shot down their own aircraft.
Because they are always locking the friendly
Yeah,
bogies.
so
So this is the kind of the situation. So Brigadier Raashid Wali Sahab, General Anil Chauhan book, The Resurgent India's Military, reveals how Modi's so-called military reforms that embedding Hindutva ideology into the armed forces, undermining the professional neutrality, and even linking Islamic concepts of war with terrorism. Is the Indian military now being turned into a political and ideological tool of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh Hindutva terrorist mentality rather than a professional force?
You see, these things happen once there is a prolonged rule of an ideologically driven party, which is BJP. They are basically run by 87,384 shakas, which are regimented military type organized entities that are the bedrock of their political power. So this saffronization is gradually creeping
By the way,
in.
you worked very hard on Hindutva ideology and all that, and one of the report was published by IPRI as well.
Yes, actually this slow seeping in of Hindutva ethos into armed forces is a dangerous development. Why? Because the professionalism is being diluted, and once the professionalism gets diluted, then there is a tendency of agreeing to the unreasonable demands of the political masters, which earlier was a kind of there was a cushion, but now that cushion is reducing. We know we've come a long way from Bipin Rawat's time to this present CDS. The Dev Gadi is going with overt Hindutva symbolism with the saffron flag behind, and posting those inaugural ceremonies on Instagram of a purely a military organizational structure like Bara Light Commando Battalion.
Yes.
So they make much song and dance about that because they are overly saffronized. There have been postings that those who are military officers who are affiliated with BJP, their promotions are being fast tracked, and those more competent are being sidetracked, and there's a lot of herd burning amongst army. And even this initiative of theaterization, which was they wanted to emulate America, which has combatant commands, tri-service entities. But here, once they went for that initiative, they, other than those doctrinal differences and the cost effects, the pushback by Indian Air Force, and then there was a complete resistance amongst the senior lot, old guard, which believes that once they go for these kind of changes in the name of operational efficiency and keeping up with the modern trends, actual intent is to create something like American combatant commands, which are directly answerable to the CNC, which is the president, not the chairman, joint chiefs of staff. So those kind of dynamics are very subtly being played out in India, and it is all a consequence of an overt religious religiosity that is espoused by BJP, and till the time that remains part of their political creed, this thing will keep happening, and this would ultimately damage the professionalism of Indian armed forces.
Very right, very right, very apt. Thank you very much, Brigadier Dr. Raashid Janjua sir, for your presence here. Thank you very much, Squadron Leader Ali Hamza, for your presence, and thank you very much, Vice Admiral Ahmed Saeed sir, for your presence and very hectic schedule. You have got a precious time out for us. Thank you very much. So nice of you. Viewers, you have just listened to our panelists. Very candid views, very elaborative views, and it is no doubt that right now the Modi regime is in trouble, in hot water, because they have to appease their public as well, because lots of elections are going to be held in India this year, next year, and obviously the last year of the Modi regime as well. And then they have to satisfy the regional countries because they have lots of setbacks, particularly after the worst failure of Operation Sindoor and the brilliant success of Marka-e-Haq and Operation Bunyan-e-Mursus. They also have to satisfy the international community because they have a lot more setbacks at the diplomatic level and even facing lots of isolation, because you have seen lots of scenes there in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization there in Tianjin as well, and even the Prime Minister Modi of India has to leave the venue early and gone back home. It's not easy to swallow the defeat of Operation Sindoor. Whether they call it's continued or ended, but this is for sure that Pakistan is ready for any sort of adventurism, any sort of eventuality, because Pakistan is rapidly moving with the strength of its military. And also, it is important that whole of the nation is one when it comes to Kashmir or India. And there are lots of rapid build-ups there in the Indian military, establishing the Rudra Brigade or the Bharav Light Commandos, or even we are talking about the Indian submarine force or threats from the Indian Ocean side, but this is going to be very dangerous. The saffronization of the Indian military is more dangerous than even, and it is dangerous for India itself. And when we are talking about overall aspect of this, whether it was the intelligence failure or whatever, there was a complete defeat of Operation Sindoor. And even if they have $89 billion of the overall budget or the $35 billion of the modernization budget of the Indian military, but the results are pathetic because their constellation satellites, their regime is actually getting set back because out of 11, only 4 are operative right now. And even when we are talking about Sudarshan Chakra, that is the defense shield planning, that is against the Army Rocket Force Command, which was established by Pakistan. So it is going to be a disaster for India, whether it's the naval posturing or the missile warfare or the armed drones, whatever it would be, but it is going to be disastrous for India because majority of Indian people, actually millions of people, are suffering from poverty. They need healthcare, education and all that. Rather, investing money on those important aspects, India is actually making its fake power, which is not going to serve India or its military. And even military's saffronization is going to be dangerous not only for India itself, but for the region also. So this is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.